Hey everybody, this is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video on Pretty in Pink, Love, Style, and Neo-Feudal Cinderella. So today we'll be talking about uh, boring, expensive khaki, fabulous thrifted originality, respecting agency in love, and feudal capitalist culture. So happy Valentine's week to everybody. If you haven't yet located your Valentine, best of luck to you, of course. If you don't, if you're ace or aro, etc., don't no pressure, obviously. Um, and but since it is Valentine's week, I figure why not go back to some 80s movies that not that all 80s movies are romantic comedies, but this one certainly is. And we actually watched a few movies in the same kind of vein, like 80s 90s movies centering some kind of romantic plot. Mallrats was another one that we recently watched. That's more 90s Kevin Smith, but similar in style. And so Pretty in Pink is a movie that came out in was it 1986. So we're talking that's 40 almost 40 years old. I was a tiny little VH1. I was a tiny little whippersnapper, ankle biter, literally probably biting my mom's ankles. Watching random Madonna videos, flock of seagulls, listening to some people look like they, have a flock of seagulls. They probably would wear a flock of seagulls haircut if it was, a different night in this picture, obviously. Listening to, Aha, music videos on VH1 as my mom is vacuuming on Saturday morning. So, this is from that period of time. It's what vaporwave, synthwave is based upon for all the young childs, the young people that are half my age, etc. So let's turn this down a little bit here. Yeah, so there's a lot going on in the movie. A lot of those '80s movies. The first thing you notice is that there's a very different style to the clothing. It was much more well, it's different. There's more exaggerated styles. There was more neon had just been invented. The America was having a honeymoon phase, as you might say, with these new materials, the neon, plastic clothes, vinyl, and then thrift stores. The show itself revolves around the main characters probably, who are of let's say working class backgrounds, but they have access to the thrift stores where they are regularly shopping. And Molly Ringwald's character in the center is, of course, all of her outfits are basically patched together. Could be described as Virginia Woolf crossed with early Madonna. She picks up the thrifted outfits or clothes, and then sews them back together, and basically everything that she wears is mostly an original creation, kind of pieced together, sewn together. It's including her prom dress, which, as Holly brings up, is very much would have been on point. Not that that was a colloquial term at the time, but it would have been on point for the 80s, senior high school year bonanza that prom is. And so all of the the main character's clothes is all. That's why I want to kind of like throw styling as a thing that's kind of central to the show. And styling in the sense of like 80s generally. Obviously, you look at that and it's the 1980s. You have Mr. Linen suits, muted, boring colors, and khaki pants. And then Ducky on the right, of course, is like just very very extreme with lots of zoot suits. Like, just basically pull out all the stops and go full 80s. He's got his you know his golden dollar sign in his sunglasses, and he has every color in his clothes. And I think he yeah, you're gonna be hard pressed to find any color in the visible spectrum not in his clothes. But anyways, and so the characters are defined. I mean, a lot of it has to do with clothing, of course, because like the main character, the first scene of the movie, let's see if I can get it. With Harry Dean Stanton is playing the dad. Whenever I see Harry Dean Stanton, I immediately think of Aliens, or Alien, Ridley Scott's tour de force science fiction movie. I see Harry Dean Stanton. I'm waiting for, him to go, here, kitty, 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 and then get his face ripped off by a xenomorph. That's all I can think of when I see him. But anyway, Harry Dean Stanton, like in the beginning of the show, he wakes up and his daughter, or I should say he doesn't wake up. He's kind of a depressed, this is taking place in the 80s, the Reaganomics kind of mass discarding of the working class America. All the factories, are being all the Detroit automotive crown jewels of American industry are being mass dislocated and moved to Shenzhen, etc. Under that period. And so there's a lot of people being laid off, such as Harry Dean Stanton's character in Chicago. One of the poor not so nice side of the train tracks area codes of Chicago. And so Harry Dean Stanton is kind of depressed. He's asleep all day. His daughter constantly has to kind of wake him up. But when he wakes up finally, and he sees his daughter, she's like got a brand new brand new outfit that she's put together herself, as we've said, right? She's patched it, sewn it all together, made something amazing. And he's like, turn around, let me have a look at you. And she's like, oh my, wow, that's amazing what you've put together. So, so the clothing is very important, and it actually is interestingly, and simultaneously you get the feeling that the economic and class realities are playing into the show. I think in the very beginning, within the first half an hour, Andy, that's Molly Ringwald's character, the main protagonist, is studying with Ducky for a history test in high school, and like this, and one of the questions is, this was the where was the Warsaw Pact signed? And Ducky's like, it's in Germany. No, it was signed in Russia. He's not sure, but the Warsaw Pact, which was the alliance of the non-capitalist evil Eastern world, right? That was the Soviet Union, etc. And so you have the sense that, like, of course, this is taking place. Also important to note, this is taking place during the Cold War, about 3 years before the end of it, in fact. But so there's already kind of like inserted this like kind of background. There's like this background. That's not Marxist analysis necessarily, but it's a background commentary on the class differentials and kind of like the differences between let's say a capitalist society and a communist society. It's not super overt because it's made in the United States in 1986 in Hollywood, but it's still, it's that's part of it, right? And part of that aspect, that's why I titled this Neofeudal Cinderella. Not just because I made a video game called Neofeud, which is on sale, by the way, so please support us by picking it up. If you like cyberpunk adventure games and games that deal with class analysis and in a satirical, comedic, science fictional adventure game in the vein of Disco Elysium and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Anyways, so Pretty in Pink is a movie that is kind of on one hand it's just a romantic comedy. It's just like an '80s romantic comedy. But on another level, it's also it's doing a lot more than that. Like Dirty Dancing, you could just it's just a movie about dancing, right? But then Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights. I gotta go back and rewatch those soon. I don't think I forgot a lot of the plot of the original, but I know every time I talk, if you look at Dirty Dancing closely, it's saying a lot more than that. It's kind of like calling into light a lot of those movies in the 70s and 80s. We're criticizing capitalist American side of the Cold War, if you look closely, right? So Pretty in Pink is a movie that is, I think, kind of doing some of that. And so when I talk about the boring, expensive khaki and fabulous thrifted originality, I'll get to the agency and love part, but let's just go through some of my favorite quotes of this movie, and we get some more pictures. There's Ducky talking to. We'll come back to that one. I'll save that picture for later on. Sorry, I got some quotes here. I want some choice quotes. Corporate, yeah. So okay. Let me see if I can find the Blaine. Molly Ringwald, Pretty Pink. Blaine, that's a major appliance. So basically, the main plot of the movie. Actually, let's look at the official plot before I keep going any further. Yeah. So the main central premise, right, is a poor girl must choose between the affections of dating her childhood sweetheart or a rich but sensitive playboy, right? So that's her childhood sweetheart in the center there. And the rich but sensitive playboy is where is he? The Blaine, that's Blaine. Blaine, the major appliance. And so like her her character is what the hell just happened? Her character is not particularly well off, right? Her character is from the poor side, as I said, of the railroad track. He's from a wealthy family. I believe the family like owns the electric company, or some major industrial corporation, and she's from the side that her dad would have worked as an employee, right, at that industrial company, or possibly as an electrician, right? And so from the get go, this is kind of it's a Cinderella-ish story where it not in its totality, the character and the message is not necessarily the same as Cinderella, but one character is very poor, right? One character is very wealthy, and the wealthy character and the poor character are in some kind of romantic entanglement. You know what I'm saying? So that's a similarity. And so there's also another character, right? So Blaine is the more sensitive of the rich dudes. There's another character, James Spader, in Pretty in Pink, right? And this, oh my god, this guy looks like a bad wannabe Reaganite. This guy looks like he could be a Neofeud. I swear to God, this James Spader character. Yeah, here. This guy, this was the mean boy. Like Mean Girls. This was the mean boys. You know what I'm saying? I mean, literally, especially in this movie. This is the guy that is like has this giant bag of money that he goes to Bolivia, right, with his daddy. His daddy takes him to Bolivia or Chile, right, with a big bag of money and a whole mountain of coke, and then it's like overthrowing governments in Latin America. And then he snorts the coke, and then he wipes it off his nose, and then he uses some of his Farrah Fawcett hairspray, and he fixes his hair. Yeah. So this character is James Spader's character. What is his name? yeah. So his character is the rich, not nice guy, not sensitive guy, right? So he's I can't look at that. I was like, I'll be like, oh my god, it's kind of terrifying. But anyways, and so James Spader's character, right, is again also from the nice side of the tracks. He's got his fancy mansion that his mommy and daddy bought, one of the 5, right? He's skiing in the Alps, on a regular basis, and he's doing the luge, and then he's skiing at Davos as his mommy and daddy are orchestrating planetary imperial plunder, right? Wearing his exact. The thing is, right? That's the thing that you see. I want to get. I couldn't find a picture of that, but all of the wealthy, rich, characters, all have almost exactly the same suit in just a slightly different shade. They'll have the same linen suit. They have the same muted pastel shirt inside, unbuttoned. They all have the same khaki pants. They all look identical, right? And you get the sense in the 80s that was like a refrain, which was like, you're gonna you listen to the punk songs of that time. You're gonna go part your hair the same way, right? Put on your when somebody from a lower class, like even cyberpunk is one kind of techno offshoot of some of the punk elements that are inside of this movie. Annie Potts is like a very, very hard punk style with lots of spikes. We got the safety pins everywhere, ripped, torn jeans, sleeveless jean jacket. That whole style is another one that's also in the poor, low class. Well, there's no quotes on the poor; they're just poor working class people's. Their fashion is very varied, right? And so there's you got the punks, there's like goth, there's like more just like black Victorian goth, you've got like modern goth, you got new wave, you've got the Flock of Seagulls, you got the Robert Plant, the Cure-esque look, you've got kind of proto alternative. Molly Ringwald is kind of very much like avant, just kind of like super original fashion, to piecing many different things together. Like Madonna is directly cited as one of the inspirations of Molly Ringwald's Andy character. It literally says that this is kind of a send up of Madonna, or homage to Madonna at one point. And so there's like but it's like the style is very varied, right? And original, varied, self-constructed, as opposed to bought in, like I was gonna say the high street, but that'd be more London. Bought in the Dosace or the Vespucci. Dosace is a brand in Neofeud. I'm sorry, I'm just writing Neofeud too, and I'm getting confused. Dolce and Gabbana and Versace, and then you have Christian. Nowadays, it's Christian Dior, right? So instead of just buying your expensive name brand clothes, right? The working class people are shopping at the thrift store that they can afford, but you can get all kinds of things, right? And then you can piece together and make your own original creative things, which actually takes more skill and talent and originality, creativity, and work, right? It takes work. It takes actual work to make your own clothes. I mean, like Holly's friend is that's the closet champion. That's run by Kate Nix. That's what they do their entire a huge part of their livelihood, and not just livelihood, what they dedicate their life to, which is making clothes for theater, for art, for generally speaking, for live streamed interactive liminal digital cabaret like the Lounge, etc. Quick free random plug of mine for Holly's show. But anyways, it's like the creating your own outfits is something that defines the non-wealthy, right? Just the hoi polloi, unwashed masses, paradoxically sometimes more washed than the wealthy, so-called washed minority. But so it's kind of like so there's this kind of let me see if I can get a picture up. Pretty in Pink, the party. where you see everybody basically looks the same, right? And so what I kind of, before I dovetailed off in 25 different tangents at the same time, I'm trying to find the party where they're at the rich people's house. I'm trying to find Dwayne's party. Blaine's party. Blaine's party. What is it? Oh, Steph. Steph party, pretty in pink. Oh, that's Steph, and the girlfriend is for all the cyberpunk science fiction nerds. That is one of the Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. The actress there on the girlfriend of Steph, played by James Spader. Just fun IMDb trivia in case you're in some kind of movie contest to save the galaxy, like in Max Reload and the Nether Blasters, and you're playing 80s movie trivia. Okay, just remember that is the Battlestar Galactica Cylon. Anyway, I'm sorry. What am I even talking about? We also watched Max Reload, which is a weird nerd movie made by Kevin Smith about gamers. Anyways, so I can't find a picture of the whole party. But anyways, my point was going to be that everybody of the wealthy class look nearly identical. They have the polos. They have basically that same, almost like 0.1% differential shade suit, and then it's like very, very minimally varied polo shirt. It's all the same shape. It's all the same cut. It's all the same everything. They have the same hair. They have the same pants, right? And so that is and their girlfriends all kind of look the same. They look like what is good. It's also, obviously, it's Eurocentric beauty standards. Obviously, it's 80s body, 80s BMI Scandinavian white man and white lady's body, which is very thin and tall and not the norm, or certainly not the average for the planet. So it's like all of that stuff is like part of the characters. The wealthy characters all kind of look like cut to a Vogue, a fashion magazine shape, and this is what is good. This is what is fashionable. This is what is you should be wearing. If you're not wearing this and this specific cut, this specific style, this specific material, this specific color, then you are obviously not of the class, right? So that's actually part of it, right? So part of the kind of the rebellion, and this is I mean, outside of the movie, right? If you look at like punk 80s style, right, just generally speaking, or punk was just one of many styles, one of non-conformist, right, styles, right, conforming to consumer capitalist culture. So you had but in the show you see that there are people who look like this with the ripped fishnet stockings. They have the spiked hair, Liberty spikes, mohawks, nuclear apocalypse red to radioactive green to pumpkin orange. You got everything, right? It's almost like the more different, the better. The more to make a specific point, and most of the people who are dressing in that way, right? And so cyberpunk is a branch off of that. It comes out, that is born out of the neoliberal 80s. I mean, one specific quote from Neuromancer, the cyberpunk book that Night City and New Yuan was stolen from by Mike Pondsmith, is it was like it was like a bored researcher had it was doing a social experiment in social Darwinism and had the thruster turn all the way up to 11, right? Accelerating and making things as extremely economically disparate as possible. And so one of the outgrowths of that time period, right, of that the collapse of unions, obviously the breaking of the flight workers union, and then the push and towards greater, like, it's kind of a return to the 1920s in a lot of senses, and worship of wealth, the celebration of bankers and Wall Street traders and this systems analysts, and then but simultaneously there was and so as the economic divides were increasing, right, and that's a statistic nowadays. People that are trying to make points against the capitalist system will bring up, like Richard Wolff will bring up, wages have stagnated and your real income has gone down compared since at least 1980s, right? So that's the time period where things are starting to really diverge, right? In that time period, there was stagflation in the anyways. This is not an economics podcast. But so the point is that and there's lots of movies that came out this time and music that was coming out, the Dead Kennedys, the Ramones and all that, all that punk music, and went along with that culture that was rebelling against, the Kenny G. Muzak saxophone as you're going to have your cocaine party and rig the world's economy, hyper financializing your own and hollowing it out, sending all of the factories over to another country as squalor and necropolises take over entire former metropolises like Detroit, etc. So the punk so that's kind of like the global context, national, and then the global context of that time period that Pretty in Pig is set in, right? So it's important for people to, if you don't, some people know that, but if you don't know that, that's stuff that it should be noted and investigated. And so some of the movies also, Pretty in Pig is a movie that is it is trying to call those differentials into question. Like, as I said, it opens, right? Pretty Pig opens with the poor folks in this. And if you look at, he's got his grass is all dried out. It's a tiny little place. Harry Dean Stanton's house is falling apart. Let me see if I can get a picture of that. Her car is like a really old piece of burning garbage that has it's like a really old car with a giant huge dent in the side of it. Andy house, if you can see, yeah. So her house is tiny. Here, is this her house? Where's Andy's house? This is the home of Andy Walsh. It's overgrown with trees. It's really old. Yeah, that's Andy Walsh's house. Andy Walsh house. Oh, okay. And then, and so it's in, like Flint, Michigan is an area that now it's even worse and worse and worse, right? The infrastructure is so degraded that everybody is just drinking poison water on top of everything falling apart. And then let me see if I can find her car. Yeah. So, that's the rich boy's car, but her car, okay, I'm not gonna be able to find it. Sorry. Her car is dented, it's old, and his car is like brand new, flashy. He's all showing it off, and and so yeah. So the okay, let me come back to it. Yeah. So so in Pretty Pink, you have characters who are very different in their class. So what's signifying the differential, that's kind of my point in this phrase here, is that because there's many things happening there. One of them is that to manufacture taste making, right, to get people to buy specific clothes, there's this kind of and also to differentiate the wealth, right, to differentiate wealth, class. I call it feudal capitalism. Ultimately it is these are intertwined systems, as I make up larger points in other streams, but it's very much to differentiate the elite and the royalty, right, from the common serfdom and the working poor, etc. These people, it's very much reinforced, and all the people of the upper crust, right? So the part of the drama of the show, right, is that Mr. Blaine from the wealthy upper crust is breaking. By going into the poor area, by openly dating, or he's trying to date or no, he is openly, but he's trying to hide it in the beginning for a lot of it. But by dating the poor girl, he's breaking the unspoken rules, which are that the wealthy are of one, the royalty and the lords and ladies are of one class and one type, and the workers or the people below, the common people, those are another kind of people, and we don't intermingle these two to maintain the structure, right? To make sure that all is right with the world, right? To maintain what the Shakespearean denouement would establish, right? Which was always the rightful ruler when the world realigned and came out of chaos back into normalcy. The rightful ruler spoke and was back in place, right? To satisfy the Queen of England, for which Shakespeare wrote his plays, right? And made his actual working seamstresses and costume designers designed, right? While the wealthy watched. And actually, this is a good time to bring up this line, because in fact, there is a line that specifically it's a very Neofeud line. They specifically say corporate families replace royal families. I'm gonna be able to find. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I can find it. Have they banned this entire? Okay. Well, there's also, I bring up that Britain is still a feudal capitalist country that has a literal billionaire-run monarchy. So the billionaires and their royalty. So but anyways, when in Pretty Pink there is a line that goes. This is the exact line. So Andy is talking to Blaine, right? And Andy is saying, I would love to date you, but I don't know if this is going to work out because my family is, and Blaine's like, yeah, my family is very wealthy. They run the large corporation. They own this large industrial company. His line is, I think they still believe in arranged marriages. And then Andy says, corporate families replace royal families. So that's actually her line. That's Molly Ringwald's line. So literally saying, right, modern capitalism is just a thinly veiled, Euro feudalism with royalty, and then Blaine says, I'm the crown prince of McDonough Electric. That's what it is. It is an electric company. So Blaine is the crown prince of the biggest electric company in that entire state, basically, right? And so that's a tension. That's the tension that's playing off between them for that entire movie, which is this is never gonna at different times Andy's like, this is not gonna work out. I can't be with you, or she wants to, but she goes to a party, right, with all of the friends, and at the party with all of his wealthy friends, right? And that's where Mr. Staff, who owns that huge mansion, right? His house is huge. Staff's house is pretty, and so I can get a picture of that. Yeah. So, this is the actual mansion. Oh, okay. Wow. So as you can see, right? So Steph's house is this massive mansion, right, with the beautiful grass and the trimmed hedge. It's almost like a mini Versailles. You've got your roses all in a row. You've got your your palatial, way too many room, way too many thousands of square feet for the size of family house. And then you have Harry and Molly Ringwald's house is that tiny little thing. Where is it? Molly Ringwald's house. I probably should have had this all open, but I don't have the time to. But anyways, yeah. So her house is the tiny little thing with the trees overgrowing it, etc., and it's falling apart. And so when she comes to this beautiful big fancy house, she's the only one wearing, I think, pearls, and she's got like all kind of other, that's actually the interesting thing, right? Is that she actually has like a lot more access to all different kinds of clothes and all different kinds of materials. But wish I could find an image of that. Can I get a screenshot of that? Probably won't be able to find a picture of it, but it's okay. Anyway, so but the point is that yeah, Blaine takes Andy to the party. Let me see if I can just get I'm gonna just get a screenshot so I don't get busted for this. And so when Andy shows up at the party, right? She's the only one at the party. Well, that might be actually, I can't show naked people. When she shows up at the party, she's the only one wearing the pearls, right? Everyone else has this kind of they're all kind of in that same kind of boring yuppie clothes, basically. She's got like the most interesting clothes there, but it's like that puts her out of place, right? It's like, this isn't a dinner party. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be wearing that. And she looks very out of place, right? And that's the thing that they immediately can tell she's a poor person because she sticks out like a sore thumb, right? So that's where like so the style choices, the fashion choices and fashion generally is actually very important in social and economic and political reality, because there's actually an anime and there's a content creator, really cool content creator, Michael Saba, who has lots of really great videos, made one about Kill la Kill and a fashion where in the end people all are at one point in the show, all people are all clothingless because without the clothes, everyone is basically just almost the same mammal. They're just all a sentient, sapient, cognizant, two-legged bipedal organism with a weirdly enlarged skull, right? But the fashion signifies these artificial differentials, right? And so when Andy's character lacks the signifiers, right? The signifiers of the linen suit, right? The name brand, would have been Victoria Vanderbilt, the name brand Victoria Vanderbilt, Calvin Klein shirt and pants and dress, etc. Right? When she lacks those signifiers, that are embedded through a vast array of interlocking systems, including the media, magazines, TV, clothing, just interactions in the reality, but are manufactured by capitalists that own all systems: the government, the schooling system, the university, the media, Hollywood, etc. And so when you lack that reinforce these artificial semiotics and signifiers and language, the grammar of clothing, right? So that if you lack what is the wealthy now, and which is the costume is part of the staging, all the world's a stage. The costume is part of it, of course. The way that you speak, your address, your car, all these things matter, and they'll factor into it. And so if you step out of line of any of those, if you as a member of the privileged, wealthy, disproportionately white, obviously, hereditarily privileged through the feudal capitalist structures, if you don't meet all of those signifiers, you can be you're chastised by being made fun of. Oh, why is there spots on your shirt? Why is your shirt the wrong color? Why aren't you wearing your linen suit? Why are you dating a low class girl? So that's the thing that's unacceptable at the party. So Blaine, when he brings Andy to the party and they see, oh, she's got this punky, really super varied original style where she hand makes all of her thrifted clothes sustainably, fair trade, without exploiting additional sweatshop underpaid labor and destroying the planet, I might add. But Andy, who is obviously you're from the poorer class, and Blaine's faux pas, right? Blaine's stepping out of the fashion is to date that younger girl, not to date the younger girl. That's totally fine. You can be Leo dating a 12-year-old, 15, 25, 20-year-old, but that's fine. But that's actually celebrated in Hollywood. Dating somebody half your age, borderline statutory rape. But the dating someone who is of lower class than you, that's unacceptable. Dating somebody who is like from the wrong side of the train tracks, that is breaking the structure of things, right? That is, as they would say, it's in Snowpiercer, everything is not in its proper place, right? I believe it is. Okay, actually, I can't remember who that is. But in the and so if you think of it that way, human beings themselves, right, are also style and fashion accessories. Human beings, right? What kind of human beings you have around you, right? What kind of appearance that those people around you give off. They say to be an executive, you always have to have a group of 3 to 5 people constantly surrounding you. I remember, I know this because there was a Native Hawaiian I was working with. I'm a Native Hawaiian myself, who was being brought into American capitalist, and particularly American capitalist office culture. There was actually like a PowerPoint presentation that was telling them how to signify your importance as a executive in a corporate office building, as a manager, as an upper management, right? And so you always need to have 3 or 5 people around you who introduce you. You never come by yourself. You have other people introduce you, and to make yourself seem more important, right? If you're introducing yourself, you don't have an entourage, right? You lack the human fashion accessories that denote your importance, signify your wealth, signify your power, signify your the surrounding of secretaries, especially young hot ones that you can use as arm candy, right? And then probably do things that are ostensibly banned after the Mad Men era, but aren't. Surrounded by all of these young trophies and all of these other suited guys, right? And suited people who are going to introduce you and say your accolades. Those are the fashion accessories that give you the neo-feudal capitalist wealth and power. And if you don't have those, the CEOs will say, why are you getting your own coffee? Why are you doing your own actual work? You should have your secretary or some underling, probably a brown or black person, do it. Why are you, those are all, you see, it's very important. And if you step out of line, right, in your position along the hierarchy, others who would like to take your place will begin to attack you based on your faux pas, your missteps in the fashion, right? Why aren't you adhering to the artificially constructed cultural consensus reality that we've made? You should put your proper costuming on, right? Or someone else will take your place and take your costume, right? And everything, everything in the Western capitalist, feudalist run world for the last 2,000 years is completely fraudulent. And that's why Elon Musk is the most powerful, richest guy in the Western capitalist, feudalist world. And he's a complete idiot. Now it's just becoming more obvious into 2020s that this entire Western structure is a laughable, absolute, tragic, and malicious joke. So, but many people that still adhere to it, believe it, and operate in this tiered structure of this fucked up tiered structure of commoners, vassals, lords, lord managers, viscount VPs, right? Lawyer knights and CEO/kings, right? Or techno kings in the case of Elon Musk. That's his literal position title, as filed with the United States federal government, by the way, in the SEC. So the positionality depends upon the fashion, is the point I was making before I dovetailed off for half an hour. Hey, what's up, Riendis? Happy Valentine's Day. If you are, I'm not saying you have to, but if you are looking, I hope that you have a good Valentine's Day with the people that you would like to spend it with. Anyways, but no pressure, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to be pressured into getting a girlfriend or boyfriend or non-binary friend for Valentine's Day. Stop pressuring me. I'm able, gosh darn it. So anyways, Pretty in Pink though is so, and so that's part of what's being said there in the movie. I'm adding, I am embellishing and adding frills on and extending it into a deeper analysis than what's necessarily in the movie. But the movie is I believe saying this. It is speaking to these problems in the United States. They were being exacerbated, as I said, in that time as economic inequality really started increasing. Not that it was ever perfect in a place like the United States, but it was really starting increasing more and at a more rapid clip in the 1980s. And so and certainly there were a lot of people who were losing jobs. And so Harry Dean Stanton's character and his children, like the Molly Ringwald's and Ducky's, poorer teens, those that was a normal occurrence. And some of the rebellion certainly is from having a troubled home to be growing up in, right? Complicated by suddenly you have like the society, American society, is becoming much more leaning into its wealth worship. It's moving back to a 1920s sort of, when you had the flappers and focusing on accelerating up this ladder of, in particular, like extra financialized capitalism, where becoming a Wall Street trader is the biggest thing, and making tons of money and quickly becoming rich and then getting mansions and then getting all the trappings with your 25-piece swing bands and your 50 houses, based on all of these super risky bets that you've made in the New York City, etc., or Chicago, right? That sort of the cult that, like, after the 1920s and 30s and the Depression happened, World War II, of course, but the Depression and then the New Deal era, when there was such huge anger and resentment towards the wealthy, and huge impoverishment of the population, and the Grapes of Wrath era, people like going hungry, etc. And then you had these, the difference between the 2020s now and that time is that there was at least some attempt to try to preserve the capitalist system that was halfway decent. The capitalism was saved by FDR by giving enough redistribution to keep people quiet, at least. And then the 1950s and the 60s, slowly the wealth the capitalist elite were trying to claw back more of their power that they had. By the time you got to the 80s, they were more openly pushing into the American culture more directly the wealth worship, and certainly by the time you get to 80s, 90s, noughties, and it basically just slid all the way down to the very present moment with no bottom in sight. That's really the difference between 1930s and the present moment. But anyways, this is not a stream about that specifically. So the characters are, as I said, differentiated based on the poorer class has access to many more. One other point I wanted to make, which is that it's in some ways the wealthy being signified. Let me see if I can get a picture of a bunch of like wealthy 80s crowd. Let me see if I can find that one. No, it's not black and white. Why is it black and white? I want to get all the pretty and the pink guys, but I'm trying to picture of a group of the rich kids in period in pink, so you can see how same they are. They all look the same. And so when the poor, like, much more diverse crowd, right? Like, they all have, there's punks, there's alternative kids, there's like the Madonna looking people, there's people that have there's people who are wearing styles that are of such a great variety. When they start to and so the wealthy go, we have to have something different. Part of that is like something kind of like the when in the 1800s, when the British, right, took their spices right? So like in the 1800s, spices and to signify wealth, right? Spices from the Far East, sugar from the Caribbean, coffee and sugar from cocoa, potatoes from America began to be widely grown. And then so what happened was when there was such access, right? Such great access to spices for the commoners, right? How snobbery helped take the spice out of European food, right? That's what I was looking for. So, trying to find the exact phrase. Why the wealthy, powerful West, with unprecedented access to spices from its colonies, became so fixated on a singular understanding of flavor, right? And what they said was, it has much more to do with economics, politics, and religion, as it does with taste. Hot cuisine or high cuisine, right? In the Middle Ages were really expensive, which meant that only the upper class could afford spices in the Middle Ages. So at one point, spice, right, having cumin and turmeric and cinnamon in your food was a signifier of wealth, of privilege, of class. I also just another little. I know everything is just infinite. It's an infinite recursion of side notes within side notes on the Silver Spook stream. But I just want to add one more side note, which is that the spices and signifying. What I want to add is, you notice that there's no economics. The economic and the political system are all the same in the 16, 17, 1800s. And then suddenly you have capitalism and democracy at the same time after that. I would argue that actually made things worse, right? If you just said there was capitalism, which is fundamentally authoritarian and not democratic, people would be less confused about what they need to do today, right? But now America, the world's greatest violator of human rights, the most unequal society, the most by the numbers democracy-less society, is a capitalist democracy against authoritarian anti-democratic socialist and communist regimes, right? And so that actually, when feudalism was just called feudalism, which was hierarchical, unjust, undemocratic, wealth and value going to the upper echelons and the kings and queens and lords and ladies, things were much more clear, right? It actually, everyone got really confused when you had this. There's no such thing as a capitalist democracy, because capitalism results in plutocracy, where the rich buy the entire government and they brainwash everyone, right? But it's actually like it got more Western malignant culture got more malicious after it invented a more virulent form of itself called democratic capitalism, where you have the bifurcation of the understanding of economics and politics. Anyways, this is a long aside. I'm sorry. Back in the Middle Ages, we were talking about food. Seriously, talk about chocolate. I got to go buy my girlfriend, boyfriend, non-binary friend some chocolate. Just tell me about what kind of cumin and cinnamon and allspice I should put in my chocolate. That's all I'm here for. What are you going off about this economic shit, man? Jesus. Anyways, I'm just joking. Back in the Middle Ages, spices were really expensive, which meant that only the upper class could afford them. But things started to change as Europeans began colonizing parts of India and Americas. So again, as I was saying, right? What was I saying? That fashion and styling and part of fashion, right? Or the outward signifiers, right? Because if you take everything off, you're just a two-legged, bipedal, slightly more advanced Homo erectus. You're some kind of primate, right? With too much of your caloric energy being deployed into your upper regions for some reason. It's unclear, right? As the late Stephen Hawking said, it's unclear whether intelligence is an evolutionarily adaptive or maladaptive trait. But anyways, so without part of the fashion is the food, right? And so part of what you are eating, right? As I said, it's not just your clothes, it's your car, it's who you're with, it's how many people you are surrounded by, right? What are they wearing, right? You know, how do you speak? Do you speak with a very, you know, do you have a posh British accent? I know that's a terrible one. That's how you know I'm not some kind of rich dickhead, you know, because I can't do a British accent properly. That's actually a signifier of how, that is a fashion signifier of how based I am. It's how badly I cannot do a British accent, and how they makes fun of me all the time. So you know, but your accent, they actually, the British, the high royal British accent was invented specifically to separate the commoner from the feudal slash capitalist slash colonialist upper crust. So by extension, food is another one of these separators, right? So then so spices were pouring into Europe after a certain point. So at one point, and this is very important, what is signifying the wealth, and what signifies power, and what signifies hereditary privilege and divine mandate of kings or CEOs or whatnot. You know, we're doing God's work. I love that Lloyd Blankfein, CEO of Goldman Sachs, brings that up, because it's still Christo feudal capitalist culture. But anyways, so what signifies your wealth changes over time, and it's not really dependent. The fashion is done under a unjust barbaric structure like Western culture. It is dependent upon many factors, including the scarcity or the abundance of a type of clothing or a type of food or vehicle, etc. Right? So that is what determines, right, in a lot of, and sometimes it's the whims of mediocre, terrible people, like leaders of Western leaders. I mean, both Western democratic leaders like Mr. Biden or Mr. Trump, and also its feudal era leaders like King George, whichever Roman numeral. So so if for example, like if they decide to wear different types of, like what was that King. Was it King Henry with his leggings? Which ones? Holly knows which ones that started the leggings. I'm sorry, that's just leggings with King Henry's face on them. That's not what I was looking for. That's could be a Valentine's Day gift for some weird people. But who is the guy? Who is the which king loved his legs? Holly's probably already written it down. Yeah. So King Louis XIV, also known as Louis the Great Sun King or King of France in 1643. He prided himself on his dancer's legs. So because a king, right, now if a man were to wear heels and very tight leggings, right, you would be considered some kind of womanly SJW, woke blue-haired girl supporter or something, right? You'd be some kind of, you might be considered a criminal in Florida just for being gay, period, right? And having fishnets means that you're gay. So, but in one time, some random white man, right, decided, you know what is the greatest thing ever? You know what is the greatest thing? Speaking of fashion, right? You know what is the greatest thing ever? And the thing we should all do now is to have our legs in tights, extremely visible. That's why Robin Hood men in tights. And it was like, I remember in the 90s, lots of kids when I was in high school in a forced colony of the United States, Hawaii. Everyone was like, why is everybody so gay in this men in tights? I remember somebody said that as a pejorative term, right? And the reason why people are wearing a lot of tights in a lot of medieval times is because that was the choice of the unjust feudal royalty. Feudal capitalist, colonialist, racist royalty, like these people. And so King Louis, he used his ability to steady, strong, graceful on his feet to his advantage. Dance helped him craft the identity that he sought to project to his people as their absolute monarch. Speaking of Neofeudalism, most importantly is with everything else he did, the Sun King documented his dancing. Not only did his official dance master, blah, 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 blah. He charted their succession in primitive notations. In 1700, a student at Beauchamp's named, I don't care about all of that, but basically, but Louis XIV was one of these figures who said, we're all going to wear this because I like to wear this, and now everyone is going to wear this. And so if you didn't copy the fashion of the ruler, right, if you didn't copy the style of the upper class, right, then you could lose your position. You could lose clout, you lose power, you lose face, right? And face is very important. The Europeans always accuse the Asians, it's everything is about saving the face. And this is very much, a lot of this is, I mean, it's not necessarily totally false, but a lot of this is very much projection, which is that, like, if you step out of line, culturally, aesthetically, if you aren't wearing the polo shirt in 1980s, the boring ass linen suit, or if you aren't wearing the tights in the court in the 1600s in France, you will lose your position. Now, that's actually a major part of Neofeud. Quick shout out to Holly Place. Neofeud is a video game that I created, obviously, but Neofeud is a game that is it is about the comparing the 1700s feudal reality in Europe to 20th, 21st century and 22nd century science fictional capitalist colonizers, right? So Neofeud is the signifiers of wealth are very important, where the characters that like are in their like the princess, the kings and the queens and the princesses have established in the science fictional future in Neofeud a reality in which the like today, having golden crowns, having golden thrones, right? Having beautiful, silk gowns that you stole from the chinoiserie section in China, but having these beautiful royal ermines and all of these majestic $10 million cloaks and capes, that is not seen at this moment necessarily as the norm for Elon Musk and for Jeff Bezos and for billionaires of this Arnault, the currently richest man. He's actually French again, so it's very interesting. The French are again sporting the richest man in the world. So, but Neofeud is suggesting there will be a time, this is one possible future where the wealthy, right? Again, as I said, what denotes power and wealth changes over time depending on the whims and the scarcity or abundance of various materials and items, right? Such as spice. And so there could be a time in which the royalty, the corporate families that have replaced the royal families, as Molly Ringwald's character says in Pretty in Pink. And so Neofeud suggests that there could be a time in the future where the royal families no longer see the need to hide their crowns and their palaces and their beautiful cloaks, and they can just openly wear that. The reason why they stopped wearing that, a lot of it, right, is because the French Revolution and actually colony uprisings as well, like Haiti, and the unrest, right, amongst the very oppressed commoners of the feudal capitalist, colonialist, racist European Western culture. They wanted to kind of suppress the rage of the population, so they replaced the golden crowns and the capes with suits, right, with the executive suit, right, because it would be, when you looked at it, it said we are like you, we're all the same. It's actually an attempt to try to make the wealthy and the powerful and the feudal elite seem less egregiously snobbish and rubbing it in your face, right? But now the suit, you see how the suit later comes to signify, right? And then certain types of suits, right? The Brooks Brothers tailored suit that you had exclusively made in London, right? Come now to signify with the specific cufflinks that you can only get in one place in New York City. The suit now signifies the billionaire class, right? And then it changes depending on the time period and the culture and the whims, right? So Neofeud is about, it's kind of a critique of that entire structure on Western capitalist, feudal, colonialist, unequal, unjust, hierarchical, anti-communist, anti-indigenous system of systems in one way that perpetuates itself forward, altering itself depending on the present and never being overthrown, sadly, despite the French Revolution, despite the American Revolution, despite the 1930s and the populist and left uprisings. It's never been undone. It still perpetuates. Otherwise, you wouldn't have Pretty in Pink, right? So and you wouldn't have the 2020s when the United States is collapsing into a smoldering pile of train wrecks carrying mustard gas and chemical weapons that, and toxic substances that are destroying the entire ecology of Ohio. But let's look at the Chinese balloon. Anyway, so don't worry about the Chinese balloon. We should be worried about the capitalist, private-owned American trains. Hawaii had all public-owned, very high-quality trains, by the way, before the United States eradicated all of our trains and then ruined its own with capitalism. But anyways, before the U.S. occupation of sovereign socialist Hawaii. So pretty in pink, though. So back to the spices. So the point that before I dovetail off into that is that the spices at one time, right, signified wealth, and then because of European colonization, right? So it's actually because of the vast quantities, because Europe took the entire planet and enslaved everyone and stole all of the land and the sovereignty of most of the earth, right? Including India. That's 1 billion people, right? That's a huge chunk of the earth. That's 1/7 of the earth, actually. And the Americas is another 1/7 of the earth. You put it all together. Not to mention Africa, etc. So the Europeans, having taken all of these regions, allspice is a spice that is similar to kind of adding cinnamon and nutmeg and many other spices together, right? That actually comes from the Turtle Island region, right? Or also known as the Americas. Anyway, so during the colonization, the flood of all these spices that began to pour into Europe meant that what used to be expensive and exclusive became common, and it became abundant, right? Serving richly spiced stews was no longer a status of Europe's wealthiest families, right? So as Holly has brought up, the Tudor era you had these huge pies, like 7 layers with all these different spices, 7 different meats, 5 different starches, all mixed up together. That was a signifier of wealth in the time in the pre or early colonial period. But once you had access to all these spices, suddenly even middle classes could afford to spice up their grubs. So elite recoiled from the increased popularity of spices. They moved on to an aesthetic theory of taste. Rather than infusing food with spice, they said things should taste like themselves. Meat should taste like meat, and anything you add only serves to intensify the existing flavors. The shift began in France in the mid-1600s as Paul Friedman. It was a way to show off the wealth of the French provinces. So literally, it was a way to showcase wealth, which was very important to remember. This is a lie that capitalism ever didn't exist in the Western world, in Europe, in Greece, Rome, or the entire feudal era. Wealth was always important, even during the feudal period. It was part of an interlocking structure, right, of the titles, the vassal lord feudal structure, but also the titles and the property and the private property, I would add, and the wealth accumulation, which could in fact buy you titles. You could buy feudal privilege. Like you could buy a judgeship in France. This is one example. In the time of Montesquieu, it's actually one of the points I was reading recently, which is that you couldn't do that in places like China. There was only public funded, non-corruptible judges, and then all of Europe, if you could literally buy a judgeship, you could buy different land titles. Wealth, accumulated capitalist privilege could buy you feudal privilege in the feudal capitalist European system. That's another important point. And so one of those things so the meat that was unflavored was to signify the wealth, right? I have so much money that I can eat boring, unseasoned food. So I don't know what's wrong with these people, man. I don't know. Meat should taste like meat, and anything you add only serves to. Okay, the shift in France, it was always a way to show off the wealth of the French provinces. The rest of Europe adopted the new style. It's interesting to note, right? The French actually led a lot of all of European culture. The British were behind the French at this time in terms of total power and total wealth. And so they were very important in leading Euro feudal capitalist colonial culture. And then later on, there was more British power increased it was at its height in the 1800s, right? The rest of Europe soon adopted the new style. It's a redefinition of what elegant is. It's sort of like in fashion. There's that word again, right? That's why I bring this up. It's sort of like in fashion. For a while, having more frills, more jewelry was fashionable. But then someone said that a basic black dress with some pearls is much better. It's not just someone. It's somebody extremely powerful, well-positioned, a quote-unquote tastemaker, often for specific purposes. Now, the people of Spain don't have a lisp, Castilian Spanish, that I was forced to learn colonizer language, like English. As a native Hawaiian under illegal occupation, I was forced to learn the Angloid language of English, and then later on Spanish. They had no Hawaiian choice for me, unfortunately. And I learned that Castilian Spanish from the colonizer country of Spain, as opposed to the Spanish that is spoken in, let's say, our friend Riendes is, I believe, of some Mexican ancestry. So in Mexico or in South American countries, it's a different Spanish. Why is it different? Because some king just happened to have a lisp, right? And I forget the exact king in Spain. And so everybody copied him simply because you could have your head chopped off if you didn't. If you could possibly be seen to be making fun of him. So everybody just adopted the list because they didn't want to have their head removed by the unjust structure of the Western culture, generally speaking, to this very day. But certainly under the Spanish king. Anyway, so sometimes it's accident. My point is sometimes the accents change accidentally. Now the British specifically engineered a new accent for the Windsor Palace, wealthy feudal colonial capitalist feudal elite in the 1800s. They created a brand new accent. They say that I don't know the exact accent, but like Holly, I'm sure has a link to that. The actual Elizabethan or pre 1800s English sounds closer to an American Southern accent, actually. But the reason why they engineered it was to separate themselves from the common people. There's always a very important, the most Western culture, right? And I'm a US, UK, France, Austria, Sweden, Norway. I'm a Western culture expert. I have a PhD in Western barbarism. So you should definitely listen to me about all of this. I was sadly raised in it and forced to learn it. But Western culture is defined by constantly the need to make unjust systems, I would argue, right? Culture, if there is an American culture as a descendant of Western culture, as a settler colonial Euro culture, it is shaped by its need to constantly make unjust mass suffering to benefit its elite. Under feudalism and under capitalist system, so-called democratic liberal Western orders, and the evolution of, right, the spice and then the unspiced cooking. The food culture is defined by the need to maintain parasitical relationships of unjust power, right? Of the lords lording up over the serfs, right? The fashion of the khaki white fashion, right? Khaki pants, boring polo shirts, linen suits, stuff that Richard Spencer and all of the Charleston people are seen often wearing, things that senators wear on golf courses nowadays. White culture is like as in the the Anglo-American and and also the Latin American, because there's white people in South America as well. The Euro-American culture of Pretty in Pink is defined by the need to separate, right, the wealthy and the power and the hereditarily inherited new royalty, right, like Mr. Dwayne there. Oh, sorry, Blaine, like Mr. Blaine there. They have to be the linen suit is a way to separate those who have access, right, to the name brand clothes. So the common people like Ducky and Andy, right? My point, what I was saying is that the reason why in the same way that when the spice became plentiful and abundant due to colonization and the mass influx of millions of tons, right, of cumin and turmeric and the cinnamon, etc. All these spices were easily available for cheap. So regular British people could get their curries whenever they wanted. They could have their madras and they could have their spiced Vindaloo's and their Portuguese or their Chinese or any kind of spiced food that they wanted at any time, suddenly the British had to say, no, we're going to boil our meat, take all the flavor out of it, and serve it with flavorless cardboard-like white bread and sadness-inducing cold watercress. Like, I mean, I'm not joking. Watercress sandwiches, look it up. Holly has all the food culture links, I'm sure, for you if you want to look that up. But they did not do that because necessarily, I still have this sneaking suspicion that white cooking is just about causing culinary depression. But I digress. It's not necessarily, but it certainly there's a I find the lack of spice disturbing in some of this cooking. But there is a power and economic unjust system maintenance incentive, right? You needed to maintain the difference between the rich and the royal, and the poor and the common, right? And so having access to the quality cuts, or the better cuts of a cow or a pig, etc., having access to that meat, and then in a certain sense actually kind of like hurting, just enduring terrible food for the sake of your power, right? It's not really suffering for your art, it's like suffering for your gross privilege, right? Became a signifier of the wealth in Britain because of the abundance of the spice, which I think makes the spice of life. It actually makes things taste better to you, and it makes things taste more varied and different, to not have the same boring boiled a lamb or beef night after night, not having the same steak. What is the American food? The steak, piece of unseasoned steak with the same old over-greased French fries and undercooked, and the same uneaten piece of lettuce or maybe some bean sprouts, right? And that's why nobody eats vegetables in America. It's, especially in the 20th century, it's because nobody cooked them and nobody made them flavorful enough to be worth consuming, right? Especially kids. Oh no, mom, don't make me eat my greens, right? Whereas like in Asia and in African countries and a lot of other cultures that out of the Western world, the vegetables taste amazing. I love eating vegetables when I'm actually cooked well. I've been cooking them more and more all the time. Hawaiian cooking, you have like lau lau is like the pork fat, and they don't need a lot of spices because we didn't have access to a lot of it. But the pork and the fat is cooked with the lau lau leaf or the taro leaf wrapped around it, and it tastes amazing. I eat the leaf before I eat the meat parts, right? But anyways, so the point is that the varied. The variation and the lack of variation in the cooking is part of what signify wealth and power and privilege and whiteness in America, and certainly proper breeding in Britain, right? And the tippity top of France, etc. So similarly, when the influx of mass-produced clothing, because also of neo-colonial and neo-colonial sweatshops, right? Or just there's a lot more clothing to be had. And so all of this massive influx of clothing in the 20th century, especially in the you have all of this need to consume more and more and more. You only need like one shirt. The amount of the average, middle class American Gen X or a boomer, I don't know about the millennials and Gen Z, they don't have much money now, but they were consuming like 10 to 20 times more shirts and pants and dresses than they needed, right? But in fashion was what was making it move. Like, oh, this week it's polka dots, next week it's polka squares. Now we're wearing this Calvin Klein. Now we're wearing this Gap, right? So the need to consume more and more and more clothes, which to profit the clothing corporations, right? Abusing the Bangladeshi global South sweatshop workers to make the grossest profits possible, right? Manufactured taste through the magazines, through the movies, right? And so they said, whoa, why like care about the planet, and why care about making way too much and all of the carbon emissions, moving 10 times as much clothes across the oceans in these ships? Who cares about that? If we bring 10 times more clothes, people buy clothes take it off and throw it away and put it in a thrift store. What matters is we're moving way more products and we're making more money, selling more clothes. Doesn't matter if the clothes could be used a lot longer than that. It doesn't matter if the clothes could be reused or, I don't know, bought at a thrift store and then reshaped like Molly Ringwald's character does, right? It doesn't matter, right? Or made into some kind of, a lot of the original punk, I'm trying to find my punk, yeah. A lot of the original punk designs were because young, poor people with one pair of jeans ended up having ripped jeans, right? And the stitches were stitching your pants back together, stitching your backpack back together, all the safety pins everywhere. Part of that was just trying to keep your clothes. You couldn't afford new clothes, so you just kept stitching and fixing and patching and putting back together your old clothes. But then also when you had access to thrift stores, then you could, let's take some of this clothes, let's piece some of this other clothes together. Not that person. I lost my punk character. But anyways, let's take some of this clothes and let's take the frill top of this dress and then cut off the arms and then put take the legs of this other dress and then sew that together in a new way. And that's what the Molly Ringwald's character does throughout the show. So again, my point I'm making is that the mass abundant access to clothing, to fabric, and to textures, right, that were abundant in the 1970s, 80s, led to, at least in part, led to the wealth and the royal, right? Mr. Corporate families replace royal families, Blaine, right? So he's wearing the equivalent, right, of boiled, sad, always the same, the boiled, flavorless beef of the British royalty of the 1800s, but the clothing version of that, right? It's bland, it's the same, his name sounds like a major appliance. His name is Bland. He has the same polo shirt. He has the same parted hair. He has the same linen suit as all of the other douchebags, right? And so the clothing became as flavorless in the 1980s American Neofeudalism as the boring, flavorless meats of 1800s feudal colonial Britain. You see what I'm trying to say there? And similarly, the common people who have access to the mass quantities of instead of spice, now they have mass access to fabric and clothing. So having very varied, right? Let me see if I can get all of Molly Ringwald's clothes in a little I'll see if I can get like a Google search of all of Molly Ringwald's outfits. Somebody probably got one. Outfits in Pretty in Pink. She's got a lot of them, right? And so the huge variation, right, of all of Molly Ringwald's outfits is what signifies her poverty, right? In the same way that like eating spices and lots of different types of foods in the colonial era Europe signified commoner, poorer, pauper, just the regular hoi polloi unwashed masses, right? The great unwashed were eating their spices and their curries, right? And the great unwashed of the 1980s, the common serfs of 1980s America were wearing you're wearing your your hat, your pink, your purple, your all these different colors. You're sewing these new fashion together. You're wearing your punk and your goth, your new wave, your alt, your psychobilly, your rockabilly. You've got all, you actually have interesting clothes that you've actually put together and taste good. Well, not taste good, is interesting and worth looking at. Unlike Mr. Blaine, unlike Rich Boy Blaine and Rich Boy Steph, right? And so everyone is again, right, because of right. Why is the United States culture altering in this way? It's not because of anything interesting. That is white culture. White Euro culture is altering is when things become abundant or when things become plentiful or for other random reasons or just at the whims of an Elon. Elon decides like he likes this kind of shoe. All the rich boys are wearing this kind of shoe. Elon decides he's into crypto. All the rich boys are like, I'm a crypto boy. To the moon, buddy. Right? Elon's crypto obsession and all the entrepreneur vest bros going with it is like everyone in the court in Spain suddenly speaking with a lisp. Sometimes it's like that, but sometimes it's just because we have to differentiate ourselves from the poverty. So you see that Western culture continues to do that even in even in the 1980s, and I would argue to this very day. You know, and I'm just trying to get a picture so you can see all of the, you know, all of the different variations that are happening here, right? Here, Pretty in Pink turns 30. Dressed in florals and essentially hiding a school locker, Ringwald looks like an actual wallflower until prom. The wild fashion from 3 decades ago and what we think these looks mean. Up next, we have the chilly librarian. Oversized glasses, check. Fuzzy sweater, check. Facial expression like you want to shush the person next to you, check. Now we have wild about doilies. This is a lot of doilies, and there is a yellow dragon with 4 sequins on it. So that's interesting. You have a decorative mat used for food preparation, and you wear it around your neck because why not? It looks good on a dessert planner. Might as well accessorize with it. What is this one? The 9 to 5. Anyways, but you know, so you see what I'm trying to say, right? Whereas basically in every scene, right, the rich kids all look exactly the same. Anyways, so and yeah, so anyway, in this there's probably a lot more depth that you could go into analyzing that, but also it's important to note that every outfit, right, that the wealthy and the royal are wearing is always bought. It's always bought, right? None of the wealth, it's you know, it's Calvin Klein shirt, you know, it's Victoria Vanderbilt pants and coats and stuff. It's now it would be Christian Dior. It would be you know, it would be the Prada. It would be the, you know, Versace or whatever the high fashion, the Miu Miu, you know, it will be the, you know, but it will always be bought, and it's often French. Actually, a fun fact: as I brought up earlier, the richest man in the world, right? Bernard Arnault is once again French. So France is back France is once again back in the driver's seat of Western culture. Bernard Arnault is the richest person. He recently surpassed Elon after Elon set $44 billion on fire and threw his Tesla company into a trash can. Google is rapidly apparently following. They lost $100 billion yesterday, or a few days ago, which is interesting. But anyways, Bernard Arnault, CEO. So the French, who led in leggings and in flavorless culinary atrocities, are as the height of Western culture. The French now lead again. Where is it? Bernard Arnault is a Parisian. He is CEO of LVMH, that is Louis Vuitton, and He has Christian Dior ownership stake of 97%. And so again, leading in French. He's a Frenchman, and his money is made in high fashion, right? His money is made in designing, in only the companies that design the clothes that signify wealth to other wealthy wealth, power, and royal privilege to other wealthy, powerful royal people, right? So that actually is still the case to this very second, in fact. And so yeah, and so the when you have your wealthy, power signifying clothes, you never make it yourself, right? As I said earlier, one of the fashion signifiers, right? One of the important adjectives in the semiotics of the grammar of appearances, right, or the grammar of clothing, is that you for the wealthy is that you did not make it. You never do any work. Actually, doing as little work as possible is the optimum, right? The less work you do, even to like clip your toenails, someone else does it for you. If you are gonna get a drink, if you really, just as one example, I'm not joking about this. Bill Gates has a secretary that has a secretary that has yet another secretary who you have to attempt to make appointments with. If you want a second of Bill Gates' time when he's not engineering global pandemics and putting microchips inside of your butt and making hundreds of billions of dollars with the military-industrial complex and global capitalism and owning pharmaceutical companies, etc., Bill Gates is if you want any of that time, you have to go through three, not that you're going to get it, but just so that you have to go through 3 layers of secretaries that have secretaries that have secretaries, right? So even his accessorized personnel have to have their own personnel accessories, is what I'm saying. His fashionably owned humans have to own other humans, is another way to think about that, right? As their personal fashion accessories to their life. 3 layers. And so similarly, so buying your own clothes. So if you were to make your own clothes, right, as it's pretty much think what Molly Ringwald's character does, that would suggest that you can't afford someone else to make the clothes for you. To have, obviously, you have it personally tailored to your body measurements, your shoulder width and your leg, inseam and your arm, your wingspan, etc. If you that would be optimum. You're gonna get it personally tailored to you, so the suit fits you exactly to your body shape. But you certainly are not gonna make your own anything, right? That would be a major faux pas. That would be a major misstep. The fashion police will be on you and take you off into the poorhouse with Molly Ringwald and Ducky. You know what I'm saying? And then you'll be replaced with another boring hair-parted suit dickbag. So, who is ready to take your place? That's a very important point in Neofeud as well. Go ahead. If you don't do what I tell you to do, if you don't work 100 hours a week with a broken leg and like it, I'll find some other rando schmuck who will take your place and make a better salary than he currently is doing whatever I told you. So you're gonna do what we said. And also for the upper crust, you're going to fall in line with the other upper crust, the aristocracy, right? The oligarchy, right? In the corporate boardroom or in the feudal throne room, you're gonna be in the Versailles court, and you're gonna wear what we're wearing, and you're gonna eat what we're eating, our 76-layer cake. You're going to enjoy that little hedge maze the way that you're gonna do what we're doing. And if you step out of the line of the court, right? The aristocracy, then you will be replaced. Everyone's going to make fun of you. That's why bullying is there has never not been bullying in the West, in a much more extreme, the direct racism and the genocide that comes with that under its racist structures is necessary to maintain that power structure. And so if you are to maintain serfdom, slavery, and Greco-Romans had slavery system of the Afro-Asiatics by the Hellenic peoples. The Europeans had serfdom always. Then they had non-white slaves, coolies, American chattel slavery, etc. And then of course the working class always the white but workers under that have always been maintained, always through bullying, right? Always through constantly it is important to always put the help in their place. And so if you are not maintaining your place and signifying to the rest of the slave masters, feudal lords, or neo-feudal McDonough Electric corporations, if you are not maintaining that place, you will be pushed down into the lower class. Because what the Western culture cannot tolerate is the actual equality of the people in the society, right? It has to maintain the differential, because if it has to maintain a fraudulent platitude filled suggestion that you could climb the ladder, right? You could go from rags to riches, right? That's the great terrible that's the terrible malicious variant of the American version of the European culture, which is that, oh yeah, anyone can be a millionaire. Everyone is a temporarily embarrassed millionaire. If you work hard enough and you stick your mind to it and blah, 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 you can become that wealthy person. But in the end of the day, nobody really wants anyone. And America is actually the least economically mobile of all the so-called advanced countries. But they want that illusion to be there so that it makes people work harder, right? Than if they're just a serf and they know that that's their place, they're just going to work a normal amount. But Americans work 3, 4, 5 ridiculous times as hard, thinking that they'll move up. But that makes the whole society simultaneously. It's able to have a semblance of validity in an international world that actually has equality in socialist countries that is required for equality. And also it simultaneously makes the workers work harder. That's actually why America is beating Europe and is turning it into a frozen, foodless shithole with a Nord Stream destroyed pipeline. They can blow it up right in Germany's face and freeze and starve all of the Europeans and get away with it for not for much longer, but they have been getting away with it for a long time because they can say, well, we're better than any of these other people because we're the freest, most democratic country in the world, and anybody can join blame the major appliances. All you got to do is, just have a daddy that happened to inherit millions of dollars and own the entire company and majority stake in fucking Boeing or something. Anyways, so that I'm like not really talking about the love topic, but just because I should probably finish soon and have a nice, tight, mostly on topic, mostly on point, mostly fashionably late, as I always am on the Silver Spook streams. I always start a little like 15 minutes to half an hour late, but that's all about haute couture, high fashion YouTube live streaming. That's what that's about. So anyways, but on the love topic though, importantly, Ducky's character, another quote I want to bring up. Ducky is of course played by the guy from 2.5 Men, and I'm terrible at remembering people's names. I remember people's names 3 sentences into what I want to say about them. So that's how my bio is gonna be. This creator of the cyberpunk game that is celebrated world around, Silver Spook. That's his name. And then I'm gonna forget the name of my own game until like halfway through the description. Then it's Neofeud. That's what it is. Silver Spook sentences are like Jeopardy, This adventure game features Carl Carbon, Proto J, and Princess Sybil. What is Neofeud? Anyways, I'm sorry. I think so. Another sentence though from Pretty in Pink is another few lines is you can love Andy, but that doesn't mean that she'll love you back. So this is from the scene with Harry, Dean, Stanton, and Ducky. Yeah. So you have this scene. I think I showed a little picture of that. So Ducky is the working class, poor, longtime friend of Molly Ringwald's character Andy. He is he's known her since grade school. They've been childhood friends forever. Ducky's only friend is basically Andy in school, and they're in high school. He's very funny and he's very entertaining. He's very flamboyant and very interesting character. He's a chatterbox. He could easily be a David Letterman substitute or a Johnny Carson talk show host. I mean, he's basically like a talk show host all the time, just constantly riffing and making up little jokes and gags and being entertaining. And he does one of the most famous scenes of Pretty in Pink, which is the karaoke scene where he's rolling around the inside of the record store owned by Annie Potts, and very, very dramatically lip syncing. Anyways, I don't want to play the video because copyright strikes suck. So anyways, Ducky's character though is talking to Harry Dean Stanton. Ducky is in love with Andy, right? Molly Ringwald. But they've been longtime friends. He's scared what will happen if he expresses his love. I get it. You're like, should I ask this person in my Among Us Discord to be a Valentine's partner? And then you're looking at them and I know the youth. I know how the kids are nowadays. I know what the kids are like. I'm 40 years old, and now I can say that you're all kids. I'm sorry. I'm old. No, I'm just a normal aged human, but I'm older than you. No, maybe not. I don't know. But you know, when I know what it's like for the whippersnappers in love. I know what puppy love is like, right? You're in your Discord, right? You're like, should I add this non-binary, really cute person with cat ears to my polycule? You know, what will I? Should I ask them to be my Valentine? And then you look at what they're, you know, what's going on with them, you know, and then you see a big happy face emoji on their name in the Discord, and it says now playing that Harry Potter wand game, and you're like, no, my, you know, third member of my love quadrilateral is now a terrible turf supporting pro-slavery person, and I'm the fuck that Harry Potter game and J.K. Rowling, terrible fucking thing. But no, I'm not joking about that. But I understand, you know, it's tough. It's tough for kids nowadays, you know. I'm joking. I'm not saying that's your problem with Valentine's Day. You should interrogate. Ask yourself, like, what kind of people do I want to date? Who do I want to stream Riddick 4 Revenge of Furia with? Do you want to stream it with somebody who plays, you know, anti-trans, badly produced games that have terrible graphic effects and bad shading, like that J.K. Rowling piece of crap? I mean, do you want to be seen with that? What is the what are the fashion missteps you're making, being even seen with that person, you know, in your podcast, you know, in your Twitch, in your live stream, right? You don't want to be seen with that person, because you know, I'm joking, you can be seen with whoever you want to be seen with, but fuck J.K. Rowling. Anyways, so Pretty in Pink is you know, Ducky's character is you know, is having, you know, qualms and misgivings, and is very much struggling with, like, should I ask my friend? I mean, I might get rejected. I mean, there's a good chance. You know, but he's also kind of starting to get kind of toxic about that, because he's kind of getting mad at Andy for reasons that she doesn't even, right? He's like getting mad at her because he hasn't asked her if she will date him, right? Which, that's definitely not fair, right? If you are feeling weird about it, I mean, that's one thing. But it's like, he's speaking to Harry Dean Stanton in the scene, going like, "Hey, Andy's dad, I think I really liked your daughter. I think I might want to date her." And the line exactly that he says is this one. He says, I'm sorry. Harry Dean Stanton says, "You can love Andy, but that doesn't mean she'll love you back." I mean, it doesn't mean she won't, but, well, what I'm trying to say is you can't make it happen. Either it will or it won't. That's what Harry Dean, the Andy's dad, the depressed, not terminally, but chronically unemployed, father of Andy says, right? He's like, you know, you can, you know, because, you know, Ducky is kind of going, what if I do this? What if I change my clothes? What if I, you know, make her a big vase of flowers? I mean, he's coming with all these schemes. You know what? That's actually very important, because as Holly, we were talking about this, and, you know, a lot of movies, right? Think of movies, even not from the 80s, right? Think of some of the most popular romantic comedies, like The Notebook, right? With the living Ken doll that is Ryan Gosling. Just as one random one, right? In The Notebook, the most romantic scene, right, is when Ryan is going, "I waited 7 years. I did I built you a house. I did all these things. I stalked you every day." I have a whole song about this called the Ryan Gosling Pikachu song in one of my albums. I waited for 7 years. I followed you around the town. I did all these really weird and creepy stalkery things, actually. It's not, right? But that movie is made to be, that's so romantic and amazing. And now you've lived out your life together because you stalked the girl for 7 years. Just was really weird about it. Just really weird about that whole thing. and kept on insisting on this girl. But it works out, and it's all like, oh, I'm so glad that you followed me around and looked in my windows and violated a 500-foot court-ordered permanent restraining order. You know, that's so romantic that you violated the court-ordered restraining order. That's basically the point of this movie, is keep being a weird creeper, but as long as you're the main character of your own Hollywood movie, which every man is, every white man certainly, and every dude in Western culture is, then that makes it all okay, because one day you're gonna get your girl. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is the mainstay of love interest stories in Western culture, and certainly in Hollywood, in movies, and in Western. I would argue Western culture generally, certainly in the last 50 years. And another one, was it Mallrats? The movie we're watching recently, Mallrats, is a movie where, which is a good movie, but also the main character is a total douchebag and a loser, played by Jason Lee. He's, says things like, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? And he's like, basically doing nothing but wallowing in self-pity, being a comic book nerd, and his girlfriend is constantly bugging him and insisting, and he's like, he does all kind of, he would be, this movie doesn't, the relationship would absolutely not fly in any kind of even a 2019s and 2020s movie. He'd be a total gaslighting creepazoid, terrible person. But it flies in the 1990s. It's not even, so Notebook is like 2000, I think. This is in the 1990s. But his whole deal is he chases and he basically disregards his girlfriend, doesn't do anything, doesn't try to clean himself up, doesn't get his act together. He's a total loser. But then he does one big gesture where he publicly displays his affection, right? He, at a big game show, he comes out and declares his public love for him, and his friend both declare their big public love for their girlfriends in the middle of a mall. And that's the huge, giant, dramatic gesture that's kind of weird and too little too late. And also, right, it denies the agency of the girl. I mean, don't publicly ask your non-binary friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever for any kind of relationship, serious adjustment in a public space, because that puts so much pressure on the in this case on the girl that you're asking to be in a relationship with you or get married to you, right? And so that and then and you had all these other John Cusack movie where he's holding the boombox above his head. The Graduate. I mean, there's a long list of all these movies and all of this cultural products that reinforce the norms in the culture itself about how love works, how relationships work, how to get the girl of your dreams or the partner of your dreams, how romance works, how to get your boyfriend and your future partner, that your entire financial survival is based upon, which if you're a woman, you're basically property of men still in a lot of ways, but people like Megan Thee Stallion are obviously changing the norm. And anyways, but the point is that so many movies are about how what the movie is kind of saying is that you should chase, stalk, follow, insist upon being in a relationship with a girl, and they get mad at her if she doesn't, because that is romantic. Eventually you win them over, doing huge, big public gestures rather than actually changing who you are. Jason Lee's character doesn't change who he is at all. He just magically gets gifted a job as literally Johnny Carson or Jay Leno. He gets his own freaking talk show at the end. He doesn't change anything about who he actually is, really. It's just he discovers I should say really loudly that I love a girl. I mean, that's not enough, actually. That's actually one of the deep, and that's something. And also it centers the dude chasing the girl rather than the girl, or in this case could be anybody, right? It could be another dude, or it could be a non-binary person. It could be somebody of another gender. But in a patriarchal culture, historically the power goes in that direction. So centering one person, and usually the man or the guy, his desired romantic partner, right? And the chase right? And chasing that partner. Chasing Amy is another Kevin Smith movie, by the way. And rather than allowing the person that you have some kind of feelings for, right, to be their own person with their own agency, and giving them like the respect to be like, would you like to engage in a, romantic or sexual relationship? And then if they don't want to, then respecting their wishes and their consent and their lack of consent, right? And then moving on with your life, moving on with your life. If you go to Valentine's Day you go to a party this weekend, right? And you go, or something. I'm not saying that you are, but or just in general, and there's somebody that you might want to ask if they would like to be involved in some romantic or sexual relationship. Here's my secret Valentine's heart, be mine, with the little sugary, violet or lemon flavored message hearts, right? If the person sends a heart back that says, no, thank you, can we still be friends? Obviously, like, you should respect the wishes. I mean, I should say obviously, but it's not obvious. It's not obvious. Not in Western culture. Respect the wishes of the people and the agency of the people, and don't hate the people just because they don't hate the people that you would like to have involvements with, just because they do not give their consent. Because that is something that's something that is rarely dealt with. Where Pretty in Pink, coming back to this movie, it actually says, when Ducky is saying, I'm going to come up with this big scheme. I'm going to get a stereo and hold it above my head. I'm going to like paint my entire body. I'm going to make a huge outfit, and I'm going to like spell Andy's name out of cut up pieces of Madonna magazines, because Andy loves Madonna, right? He's coming up with these schemes about how he's going to win, how Ducky, right, is going to win. That's very... Don't use that verb when you're speaking of other people's romantic involvement. That's not... You don't win anything, right? He's going to win Andy's affection and love by doing something. He's talking to Andy's dad, right? And Andy's dad... Obviously, he's over there with his beer and his cigarette. He's just like hanging out, being broke in rapidly rusting Rust Belt, Great Lakes region, right? But even still, he's like, well, buddy, I mean, maybe she love you or maybe she won't, and just because you love her, that doesn't mean she will, and she will, but maybe she won't, and you gotta just accept that that's her choice, or that's her prerogative. That's up to her, right? That's not a thing that is normal in Western, certainly not for men. There's two guys talking to each other, and so that's actually like a very, it's a very good progressive message inside of the movie itself, which is not so common, especially and not in that time. You got 16 Candles. You got all these other movies that are like not saying that. You have movies today that are still not saying that. As I brought up, in the 2000s, in the 1990s, they're still not saying that. They're saying men chase women, do big gestures, get upset, do everything you can, stalk them until you win them over. Do everything and anything that you can to win them over, and then just be sad about it for the rest of your life if you don't. And that's the other thing is all these forever, the one that got away. But the thing is, like, the hyper emphasis upon getting into with that one soulmate, that one that's gonna make your world, that's gonna make everything right, and it makes the world smell like smell like roses, and you only see things through rose tinted glasses, and the rainbows and unicorns everywhere. That culture, which is also pro-capitalist, because it's about selling a lot of different types of deodorant, makeup, certain other products, even though most white guys don't use it to clean themselves. It is a culture about selling items that are going to help you win and have success in romantic relationships, right? It's not about actually having normal human fulfilling relationships, right? And so, in the same way that Christmas is not about not that I'm a Christian and that Christianity has been warped for a long time, but Christmas is for the United States is about moving billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of stuff around into under Christmas trees, and then all the ab crunchers and the out of fashion that unfitting clothes gets thrown out, right? Similarly, love under a capitalist culture is all warped into to the needs of corporations, businesses, the wealthy, etc. And so, and then there's other things going on as well. There's just chauvinism and patriarchy and just weird, messed up conception and cis-heteronormative conceptions of what relationships are that are all kind of being mixed into this thing. So when you have a movie that actually says, hey, let's see if it works out. If it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean you gotta just hate Andy, because that's part of what the show, in the course of the show, Ducky does eventually kind of, goes through this process of, oh no, there's a new guy involved and now he's mad and he has to kind of like deal with his feelings about that. He's like, oh no, Andy's got a boyfriend, and he's like gets really upset and is like calling the guy names, and he's also mean. He's mean to Andy and the new boyfriend, and he has to kind of deal with the fact that like she is her own person and can make her own choices in her own life, and that might not be ideal, and it might not be what Ducky wants, right? But he has to respect other people as complete human beings, especially women, or I mean everyone, including women. But and so Ducky doesn't have ownership of Andy, even though they have been longtime friends and they do have a good relationship, but it's more like a brother-sister relationship. It's a friend relationship. It's a platonic relationship, and he has to accept that, and like that's actually something that is that's something that is that is something that comes throughout the course of the film. I feel that is like actually a positive message. There's actually a lot of positive things in Pretty in Pink. As Holly and I were talking about it, Holly's rightly, I think, says that it's one of those movies from the 1980s John Hughes era that really does hold up to today. A lot of them don't. I mean, that's not the movie's perfect, but in terms of like what it's saying, it's like a lot of things are more based than any 80s romantic comedy has the right to be, let's say. But anyways, so I think I've said all the things that I wanted to say. So I wish everybody a fabulously thrifted Valentine's. I hope you get your cyberpunk Edge Runners sleeveless jean jacket with the radioactive green mohawk, manic pixie dream self of your dreams put together, so that you can appreciate it in your Instagram photo that you took of yourself, and then you can find someone else who you can also possibly ask about being in a relationship, or you can not. That's another thing. It's like being single is a perfectly valid existential state to be in, with or without the sleeveless jean jacket, and with or without the blindingly white khakis, the pastel I sell a lot of cocaine polo shirt, and the douchebag linen jacket. Actually, skip all of that. Don't wear that stuff, man. Don't skip it. Unless you're in some kind of Broadway play. Don't wear that. I was actually looking at our friend Megan Byrne. Megan Byrne does costume design for theater, in fact, and used to do it professionally in the noughties, and is starting to get back into it now. So fashion is very important, especially for telling stories. But other than that, never wear what that guy on the left is wearing, okay? Or I can't be seen with you. I cannot be seen with you if you're wearing that, okay? It's not gonna make good for my Silver Spooks. You're gonna be a bad fashion accessory to my presence at the next Silver Spook in-person party, which I don't know when that's gonna happen. But anyways, thanks a lot for everybody for watching. Don't forget that everything that we do here, if you appreciate this education/entertainment/relationship and love advice, this Love It Silver Spooks relationship advice column. Don't forget. Oh, I think there's a Neofeud Valentine's There's a Neofeud Valentine's image I made a while back. Let me see if I can find it. Cyberpunk dating sim. Happy Valentine's, everybody. Happy Valentine's. Here's my Neofeud Valentine's. Okay, this is what Neofeud might look like. This is what Neofeud might look like as a VA-11 Hall-A cyberpunk bartending game dating sim. Okay? Who gets together? Happy waifu shipping. That's Princess Sybil. So again, Protege is like Ducky. You know what I'm saying? Protege is like Ducky. He's like the Robo John Connor-esque Ducky with a golden chain and dangerously OSHA rule violating electrical circuits coming out of his neck. Okay, and he's like, "You the flyest, bangingest worshipfulness. I have a spy with my own 2 eye cams, girl. Come on, Princess." And so Princess Sybil is like not. She's just not that into you, and you gotta just like, you know. But I think Protege, he would like when he comes out and he just says that, he's just like, "Come on, girl, let's get it on." And then she's like, "You're a robot, and also, I think of you like a brother, like a little brother." Then he just moves on. He's just like, you know what? I accept this. You know, he moves on. He moves on much like Poe. Who plays Poe in Star Wars? He moves on like Poe from Star Wars Episode 8, right? Giving the smoky, sultry eyes to his ex from that one planet in Star Wars, and she's all like, nope, and then he moves on. You know what I'm saying? Just move on. So Protege and Ducky, they just move on. They're just like, you know what? Okay, I guess it's not happening. And then there's lots of other people out in the universe, you know, or the multiverse, as it might seem. So anyway, that's my Neofeud Valentine's dating advice for everybody. I'm just being silly now. Neofeud is you can support everything that we do here by checking out by becoming a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/Neofeud. You can also support us through direct support through Ko-Fi. But of course, thanks a lot to the people that have just become Patreon members. By the way, somebody just did that. I'll add you right now. When you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to Julia Stahlbaum and Twilight. Okay, I hope that's not Edward Cullen, because I don't date 114-year-olds. Also, I don't date because I'm married. But anyways, so thanks a lot to our new Patreon supporters. Thanks a lot to all these people on this list here. You get access to the Silver Spook Discord, Silver Spook behind the scenes updates, what we're working on, as well as the Silver Spook University, which is a 1,000 hour plus content library and curriculum that is basically everything I've ever put out in social media and in video in some way that is categorized according to topics for better consumption. That's just one little perk when you become a Patreon patron. So thanks a lot to those new patrons as well. You can also support us through Ko-Fi. Don't forget to like this stream and share it around as well. And you can also get Neofeud on Steam. Neofeud is a game about Neofeudalism. Neofeud is a game about the corporate families that replace royal families. But in the cyberpunk adventure game, it is a game that is on sale right now. Tell all your friends. It's on sale till February 23rd. So run, hop, skip, fly, jump, crawl, duck walk, ducky bob, or Andy strut your way down to Neofeud's website and grab that. You can also get Stray, which is a game with a cat protagonist, but it's also cyberpunk. Disco Elysium is Neofeud with less cyberpunk characteristics, and also Neofeud is made with one person doing almost all the work. It's basically me. Whereas Disco Elysium was like, I don't know, a handful of folks. So I'm just saying, I cut the Neofeud dress, put that together. I just stitched that whole thing. Disco Elysium, they bought their base indie video game at the corporate. I'm just kidding. They didn't buy it at a store. They made it themselves too. But Neofeud is also available on itch.io for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And it's also on sale. And also, when you grab it there, it does give us the maximum revenue in terms of the cut, and you can give it any amount that you would like to. And yeah, so you can get it over there. Also, you have other games like Decolonators, where you kick capitalist colonizers' butts. What happened to this? Okay. Oh, you can get Decolonators, where you kick capitalist colonizer butts out of Vietnam and retro arcade game glory, as well as other games like Indigistar. Pigeon with Gun is a game where you fight giant robot gajillionaires and flying bougie gentrifying F-16 pilots and heart stealing. Speaking of Valentine's Day, we have a literal Valentine card shaped liberal politician bad guy. He's like a liberal politician in the shape of a liberal in the shape of a Valentine's card. His name is Danny Cutie. So that's just a fun Valentine's Day tie-in. And also you have Woman is a book by my partner Holly, who wrote this book that is about critiquing right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, having been raised in it, in a story of the Bible from Mary's perspective. And it is a book that is also free, or you can throw us some dollars when you pick it up. And also, what else is there? I'm like lost now. Yo, you can follow at SilverSpook Games at Octodon.social, at SilverSpook Games at Mastodon.social for all of the social media in a non-capitalist federated open source platform, unlike the other one. But while we have access to the collapsing Death Star satellites, you can follow on Twitter at SilverSpookGuy, yeah, and at SilverSpook Games minus the Ian Silver for the game stuff. There's a Instagram and Facebook page as well, and we also follow Terminus Cyberstar. Terminus Cyberstar is a low poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games such as Data Sax and System Shock. Terminus Cyberstar is also a game I am the content director and lead writer of, and I am also looking forward to playing it myself when it comes out sometime soon. If you like those kinds of games, consider following at Terminus C, and they also have a Discord that you can join. And of course, you can follow Holly at the Tech Fairy. Holly, hey, what the hell? Wait, where the hell did your account go? I think I thought you could follow Holly at the Tech Fairy, but maybe I'm mistaken. Am I spelling your name wrong? Okay. Anyways, I'm not sure what happened to Holly's account, but you can follow Holly at the Tech Fairy. I'm fairly certain, and Holly also has Instagram. That's very strange. Now I'm like all weirded out. Like, what happened to your? Did Holly suddenly disappear? What a terrible thing to happen on what a terrible thing to happen to SilverSpook on Valentine's Day. His wife disappears off of the face of the internet. No. Anyways, this is catastrophic. But anyways, you can follow Holly. I hope your Instagram is still there. It must be still there. At the Tech Fairy. Oh, there it is. What the hell? That was messed up. Whew. I almost thought I lost my entire wife for a second there. Anyways, you can follow at the Tech Fairy, at she/her, writer, poet, educator, moderator for here at SilverSpook Games Cooperative, and also Holly is producer manager for KNX TV. Holly makes as a producer and writer for The Lounge, and Holly's also going to be hosting a show. You want to see Holly? Holly's going to be live for an hour approximately on Sundays at 7 Eastern. On this KNX TV channel, hosting a show called Bug Soup. So yeah. So now Holly's gonna have to like say words a lot, like I do, for the time. Well, it's only one day a week. Just you start off at at that level. You don't want to start off opening and closing your mouth for 10 hours a week, like some kind of weirdo like myself. So anyways, Holly's gonna be on this show though, and tomorrow at 7 Eastern, and also is the primary parent caregiver and also the administrator here at the SilverSpook Cooperative and manages things generally speaking. Holly's also tweets important things like this, And yeah, so that's all happening. And one more thing I want to kind of I probably shouldn't, I can't say too much about this, but I am currently working. I'm starting to at least in an advisory capacity. I'm working with a new project of, it's a German and Cameroon, which is a country in Africa. So it's German and it's a West African project in collaboration with some folks in Germany to tell stories like Neofeud that are about economic and political and social inequality and experiences of people in West Africa generally and Cameroon specifically, using Neofeud as a template. And so I'm not sure how much I'm at liberty to say other than that, but I'm very excited to be working with these folks, and look forward to, possibly if this game, that's I think they're planning to do some kind of adventure game like Neofeud. Silver Spoon Games may be publishing it potentially. We'll see what happens. But anyways, excited for this new project. It's very much nascent, so I can't say too much more than that. But yeah, very excited about that. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching, and we will be back in the evening times to teach everybody more about love and keep your marriages polished. Keep your boring boiled meat and your uninteresting khaki pants to yourself. And the boiled meat, that is not a euphemism for something related to, that is not the hot beef injection meat. Don't take your boring boiled hot beef injection anywhere. Don't inject that in anything. And also that's just another 80s movie with Ronnie Ringwald for reference for you. And also, wear your cool fashions and do awesome things like, tape of the label, as Mr. T would say. Mr. T should close this video out, Victoria Vanderbilt, Calvin Klein, do they wear clothes with your names on it? No. Tape of the label. Make your own clothes. Buy from the thrift store, create your own fashion, and then wear your own name, like Molly Ringwald in Pretty in Pink. There we go. That's the outro. Have a good one, everybody.